Hello good people of YouTube and welcome to my channel. Today I'm hoping to give Baldwin the Pious here a Zenithal Prime, but before I get the rattle cans out I wanted to take one final look at this giant sculpt. Now for those of you who are familiar with my previous videos or some of the posts that I've put up on social media, you will already know who Baldwin is, and you will know that he was originally created as a unit filler for my Warhammer the Old World Bretonnian army. I know that raised a few eyebrows because he's big, but the intention was always to be able to use Baldwin as a giant fighting in his own right, in friendly games where, you know, we're not sticking religiously to the rules. You will also know that I created Baldwin with a magnetic hairpiece so that he could actually fight in other armies. So with no hair at all, I think he looks pretty cool for a Dogs of War or a Empire army, and I will probably use him for that. So, but with the aid of neodymium magnets, I presume I'm pronouncing that right, I was able to create a hairpiece, a bowl cut for Baldwin that made him look very Bretonnian, and that really is his kind of main purpose, if you like. However, I do love variety, and anyone who's familiar with my previous sculpts and the giants that I've created in the past, you will know that they come with lots of head options and hand options, and that's something that I love. Well, Baldwin here was a one-off sculpt that I've done for my own personal gratification, so I wasn't going to do head swaps, but I went for hat and hair swaps instead. I also created a pineapple ponytail so that Baldwin could fight in my Ogre Kingdom's army, or perhaps as a Chaos Giant, and that's why I gave him that hairdo there. And finally, you may also have seen this hat that I sculpted. Again, there's a magnet in there. The foil was just that was used as a barrier to prevent the hat from sticking to the head, whilst I got the shape of it right for a good fit. And there we have one big hat held in place by a magnet. And that turns Baldwin into a giant who could fight with my Orc and Goblin tribes. So yeah, this guy is now going to come with me downstairs and get primed. Hopefully with the magic of video editing software and a little bit of patience, I will now be able to cobble together a cut. The first thing I've done is to completely cover Baldwin in a coat of black primer. Because I didn't have a rattle can of black primer, I've actually opted to use this surface primer from Vallejo, and I've applied it generously on the model with an old paintbrush, working it into all the nooks and crannies, because this will form the base for any shadows and dark areas and recesses on the model. So you don't want to be doing things like painting underneath the skirt or areas of the model that won't be seen. So anything like that, if it's black when you start, it saves you time. It's just a nice shortcut, and it's obviously a great starting point for the rest of the Zenithal Prime. Now I do have rattle cans for those, so the next thing I will be doing is spraying Baldwin with this grey plastic primer. It's not important that it's plastic primer, that's just what my local hardware store had, and I will be applying that all over the model, but predominantly from an angle of 45 degrees. I will touch up areas if I feel they need it by getting the spray can in there and just doing a light a light spray on any areas that haven't caught the grey the way that I wanted them to. But basically I want Baldwin to look grey with black in all the recesses and the shadows. When I've done that, I will come back and show you what Baldwin looks like. And after he's had his coat of grey, I can then apply the final coat in the Zenithal priming technique, which will be white primer, and this will be sprayed mostly from above to pick out all the highlights and the raised areas of detail, and it will serve as an excellent base coat then on which to apply speed paints or contrast paints. Basically, it's a technique that allows you to shortcut the priming, base coating and applying of a mid-tone. If it works well, then normally all you have to do is add a couple of highlights. So anyway, this is Baldwin completely covered in black primer, and by the magic of video editing, the next time you see him, he'll hopefully be covered in grey. I'm not sure how well the camera will pick this up, but Baldwin is now grey, so he's had his second coat of primer, the first being an all-over coat of black, which is still visible in some of the recesses and areas of shadow, while the rest of the model is now grey. I will try and put him down. He is heavy and it does hurt my wrist, but there you go. So yeah, the last stage of the process now is to add the white highlight to the Zenithal Prime, and I will come back in a minute when that has been done. And here's Baldwin with his final coat of white primer. It's probably not showing on the camera as well as it could do, but I think if I hold it like that, you can see the sort of subtle transition of shade there from very white on the skin through to grey, through to quite dark around the folds of fabric. And that's it. I have gone in with the white spray just to highlight around the palms of the hands and underneath the neck a little, because flesh does not paint well over black. So even if you've got some skin in deep shadow, I still prefer to get some white in there and do the rest, the shading with colours like purple or blues or whatever, just to darken those skin tones. Some places it doesn't matter so much, like behind the ears, but on the palm of the hand, which is visible from different angles, I just wanted to lighten that up slightly. I did also focus attention on the tops of the knees and the tips of the toes as well, and not just the forehead and the shoulders. So there it is. That is a Zenithal Prime with rattle cans. So it is possible to get some nice transition and shading with a rattle can. You don't have to have an airbrush. I know you can get some exquisite results with an airbrush, so I'm not against it. If you've got one and you want to airbrush primers onto your model, then go ahead and do it. Knock yourself out. It's you know, horses for courses. But for those of you who don't have an airbrush, whether it's because you can't afford one, you don't want to make the investment, you don't paint enough for it to be a worthwhile investment, or whether it's simply that you don't have the room for that kind of equipment, rattle cans are fine, and I use them all the time. I do have an airbrush. My particular airbrush is not a very good one. I bought it from an art shop rather than a model shop or an airbrush manufacturer, so I probably didn't choose the best. Well, I know I didn't choose the best because I hardly use it. The other reason why I tend not to use airbrushes very much is because for me, they seem to take longer to clean, to set up and clean again and put away than I spend painting with them. So if I've got to spend a lot of time tidying up and sorting things out, then I tend to lose interest. Maybe I just haven't found the right one yet. But anyway, I use rattle cans, and this is Baldwin Zenithal primed with aerosol primer. Don't worry, that wasn't anything serious. And finally we have Baldwin Zenithal primed with his magnetic hairpiece in place. And he is now ready to paint. Very gently move that because I don't want to damage the primer before we even get to painting. I think the top of his head will probably need a serious layer of matte varnish on it when it's painted, as will the insides of the hair pieces, just so they don't damage the paintwork. I'm quite pleased with the results there. I think that looks pretty cool. So there's Baldwin in his Bretonnian peasant attire and his Bretonnian basin cut. I've also done the other hair pieces. Just put those on gently. Again, I'm just a bit nervous about doing this while the paint is unprotected, but there we have the pineapple ponytail for Ogre Kingdoms or Chaos. I have actually bought some Old World Chaos Warriors. I've bought a battalion box, and I do have some Ogre Kingdoms as well, so he will get to sport his different hairstyles with meaning, hopefully next year. Yeah, I'm just really conscious that that's starting to mark already. It's not a problem, however, because what I will do, let's just put the hat on so you can, oh, see the hat. There we are. And that's Baldwin for the Orc and Goblins. Right, spin him around quickly, enough playing around with him, because as I said, it is starting to mark the primer on the top of his head, but I'm not too concerned at this stage, because what I do intend to do is just a little bit of dry brushing with this white primer, just on the areas where I want to bring out some of the highlights and the edges of the detail. So that is what I will be doing next, and I will put some of that on top of that head. I've just got one photo montage to do for Facebook, and then I can paint him. So there we are. Probably isn't showing up too well under this light. They can bleach things out quite a bit, but I have now applied a dry brush of the white primer just gently all over Baldwin's clothes, the rope, his head, hands, club, the fur texture on his shoes, bits of detail on the base. I don't know if you can see it there, just picking out the edges on some of that fabric. I think it shows he does actually look a little more grey on this video than he appears in real life away from the camera. But that's it. That's the highlights done with dry brushing using the Vallejo white primer that I showed you, and Baldwin is ready to paint. I'll try and finish this video off with a couple of shots that I've taken of him under different lighting, and we'll see how that goes. But thanks again for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Always helps if you like the videos. Definitely helps if you subscribe to my channel. There'll be plenty more of this stuff as and when I have the opportunity to create it. At the moment, this is just a hobby channel. I don't do this professionally, as some of you will know. So yeah, it all helps. Anything that lets the YouTube algorithms know that I am a worthwhile human being is greatly appreciated. So thanks again for sticking with me, and take care, and I'll see you in the next one.